If you find yourself getting more into iPhone filmmaking and using your iPhone more in video productions, chances are you've looked into getting a cage for your iPhone. Cages are a great way for being able to easily add accessories, protection, and other rigging options to your phone, and also just make it into a much more capable camera. And as someone that has switched a lot of his productions to shooting exclusively on iPhone recently, I wanted to share with you 3 of my favorite iPhone filmmaking cages and just general video cages that I use across a lot of my productions. These 3 cages represent 3 different kind of categories in terms of pricing, features, and what's really available. All 3 of these cages are really solid options. However, I've had extensive use with all of them recently, and I want to share with you my thoughts so you can figure out which one is best for you and your productions. I'll also leave links in the description below where you can check out all the products that I have mentioned in the video, as well as a bit of a matrix that will compare all of the features across each of the cages if you want something to really look at and see which one's right for you. So without further ado, let's get into it. We'll start off with the cheapest cage and then work our way into the most expensive one. So let's begin with the Smallrig Cage. This is the cage system that I have definitely used by far the most out of any of the other cages. Not necessarily because it's my favorite, but it's just because the one that's been around the longest. Now, with the Smallrig Cage, what you do need with it and what comes with the kit is that you can't just put the iPhone straight into the cage. No, you do need to either apply it inside of a case or a bumper case. And what those look like is either the full TPU case like this one or this bumper case. Now, this is both a good and a bad thing. Bad thing because you have to remember the case, but good thing is because it does add a bit of extra protection and some extra flexibility. I personally like the entire closed back TPU case, so I can just pop the iPhone in there. And then we're all sorted. So the iPhone is nice and snug in there. You've got this locking mechanism on the side that keeps it locked and unlocked. Now that is pretty secure, but probably out of the 3, I'd say it's the least secure just because you can, if you really wanted to, you can get the phone out. Now, one of the things I absolutely love about the Smallrig system is how you can quick release and attach different accessories. So when you do buy it with the kit, you can get these handles, for example, and they have this H11 locking proprietary mechanism to it, which is really cool. And there's different mounting points on this side of the cage, so you can quickly attach the handle just here like this. And then boom, you have a handle set up. And if I wanted to attach it to a top handle like that, I can do it. And straight away, I've got a system that enables me to quick release and to kind of attach stuff super quickly. So another huge benefit of this quick release system is that you can actually purchase these H11 quick release plates separately and attach them to literally anything. Smallrig magic arms, you can attach them to tripods, whatever you'd like. So you can attach the phone straight on to the quick release plate like that. And there you go, that would attach to a tripod. So in addition to that, we've also got quite a few different cold shoe mounts as well. We've got 1, 2, 3 cold shoe mounts. And then when you add the handles on top of the cage, you also have another cold shoe mount on the top here, which is really, really handy. So you can attach so much stuff. One of the really cool things about these cold shoe mounts in particular is that they are quite close to the actual port of the iPhone. So if you wanted to attach, for example, an SSD or any other kind of accessories and run the cable really close to the iPhone itself, it is right there for you to be able to attach. Some of the other cages, they're all the way on the other side, which is really annoying, but this one I think has the most cold shoe mounts out of any of the cages, which is really cool. We've got around about like 8 1/4-inch thread attachment points too, so there's so many things that you can attach there. Now, one of the things that is a little bit annoying about the Smallrig Cage is when it comes to being able to go from just using the iPhone natively to attaching a lens to then attaching just an ND filter onto that. And the way that this whole system works, very similar to even with just the bumper case, is that you need to slide this plate out, take the plate off, and this is a 17mm plate here, so for all your 17mm lenses, but I can then attach the lens onto here and that screws on. So that's really cool. However, if I now want to just use the ND filter onto the, like if I want to use the main wide lens, I then have to go into my Smallrig pouch, find the plate that I'm looking for, which is always a bit of a hassle. So I can find this plate, which is for the Smallrig filter specifically, attach it on, and then I can attach my filter like that. So this is like a magnetic filter attachment. So that is mostly the Smallrig Cage. I think it is my favorite cage because of how run and gun kind of a setup it can be. You can quickly go to very different setups very, very quickly, and it's overall the most adaptable. And I find that especially with this whole quick release locking mechanism here. So one of the things that is a bit annoying with all of these cages, and it does apply for this one as well, is that if you use an SSD like this Lexar one, you can't actually use just the generic adapters to plug straight into the cage here, because it's quite high and it actually covers it all up. So what you have to do instead is get like a extender like this little USB thing. So if I've done this properly, like that, and it kind of extends out. It's not as flush anymore. So that's just one thing to keep in mind. Or you have to attach an SSD separately by using like the cold shoe mount. In the end, if you're using any cage, I really do recommend just shooting internally into the phone if you can. Although I have a lens on the phone here right now, this is one of the only cages where it actually still has access to the entire MagSafe ring, which is really cool. The lens does kind of block that, but if you don't use it with the lens, you can still access MagSafe. And lastly, with the Smallrig Cage, you can't access camera control. So if you really love that feature, that's one thing that you will miss out on. So in terms of pricing, the Smallrig Cage is the cheapest at $49, or you can rig it up and go up to about $109 if you get it with the handles and some other accessories, but it definitely is the cheapest option. So that's pretty much the Smallrig Cage. We'll head on over to the Freewell Cage now. Probably the cage system that I've used the least with my iPhone 17 Pro Max, but I have used their cage system significantly with my 16 Pro, and it's pretty much exactly the same. This is probably my favorite cage, I would say, and there's a couple reasons why to it, although I feel like I haven't used it as much as I should have recently. So in terms of getting your phone into the cage, it's really easy and straightforward, and honestly so much quicker compared to the Smallrig Cage. All you have to do is line the phone up like that, and boom, it is in the cage already. It's nice and snug and secure. You have access to the camera control button on the side. We've got some cold shoe access on the side, 2 points there. There's quite a few 1/4-inch thread mounts as well, all throughout the cage too, which is really cool. This mechanism on the side of the cage essentially locks the phone in. So if I just securely put that there and then tighten these up, everything is now locked in together. You've got access to MagSafe, so most of your MagSafe accessories should work pretty well. And quite similar to the Smallrig Cage is that it does have their own kind of like quick release system. So for example, all I have to do is attach one handle there and one handle there. They did have a few other accessories as well. However, I don't think they have an accessory that specifically enables you to attach it to tripods and everything. It's something that I have mentioned to Freewell, and I hope they do come up with an accessory like that, or it might already be out. I just haven't used it just yet. So that's really cool. You can attach it on the bottom like this, or you can attach it on the top just like that. So as well with this cage system is that it does have a Bluetooth remote shutter too. So if you want to be able to press record, you can do just by hitting this button here. And what's really cool about it is that you can actually take off this whole button and take it and give it to someone else and then just use it separately. But what is really cool about the Freewell system is that this actual plate here that's already attached to the phone has a magnet built right into it. So I can grab this Freewell Sherpa magnetic kind of filter system, and this just attaches straight onto there, which is so cool because this mount here as well is also a 17mm thread mount. So I can get rid of this Smallrig plate that I used before, and I can attach a 17mm lens here. This is a Sandmark lens, which is 17mm, but also Freewell do make their own lenses too. So for example, I can bring out one of Freewell's lenses, which comes in a really cool carrying case, and I can put the lens on the cage just here. So that is a really, really cool system, I think, because you can quickly switch going between lenses and using actual iPhone camera and an ND filter. And I think it's a really nice integrated system. It's what sets it apart compared to the Smallrig and the Beastgrip Cage, which we'll get into. Another really cool thing as well is that if I did want to take it out of the cage like this and just use it on its own, obviously there's no kind of case attached, but what is super cool about the Freewell system is that their cage works just the same as what the case does. So I can attach the case here like this, and I can attach the magnetic filter onto the case just like this, and there you go. I've got the case on its own, switch from the cage really, really quickly. So that is the Freewell Genius rig system. You do get the cage and the handles for $149, which is a little bit more expensive than the Smallrig one, but I think that added benefit, and if you invest in that Freewell kind of ecosystem, it can work really well for you. But now it's time to go over to our last cage, and that is the Beastgrip Cage. Now, the Beastgrip Cage is the cage that I would say is the most professionally used on any set that uses an iPhone. I've used it on one short film, our recent one called Singer. This by far is probably the most commercially acceptable cage, but it also has a very good kind of indie filmmaking practical use case as well. So let's start off with actually getting the phone into the cage. I can pull this latch back, release this door that opens up, and this is by far the most secure cage out of any of the cages we've used so far. Similar to the Freewell cage, this securely goes in, and that's not it. You put the door back onto here, which has two little prongs on the side of the phone, locking it back like that, pressing it down, and that is absolutely not going anywhere. Now, in terms of mounting as well too, one of the ways that Beastgrip do things a little bit differently in terms of attaching lenses is that rather than having things that you can immediately screw on and kind of flimsy plates and all that, they have kind of dedicated modules when it comes to attaching lenses and everything. So the two modules I wanted to share with you are the 17mm plate lens as well as the 37mm lenses. So attach a lens plate, or this module I like to call it. I just slide the plate in like that and then rotate it tight until it kind of friction fits in there. And there you go. I have the 17mm plate attached. So if I wanted to switch to a different lens, like one of Beastgrip lenses, but what I can do if I set that off to the side, I can unscrew this plate here, put the plate off to the side, attach the 37mm plate, and there you go. That is now all attached. Now, that works pretty well. The only problem is that now if I want to use the phone with just the filter itself, I need to get another plate. This mount would go here, just into there like the other kind of modules as I discussed before, and screw on there like that. So that's obviously a lot of adapters and modules and things to kind of put on and keep track of. And this kind of gets into the crux of what I love and also don't love about the Beastgrip Cage. I love how robust it is, how protective it is, and how secure it is. And ultimately, compared to any of the other cages, if you really want to build out a big rig with your cage, the Beastgrip one is the one to get because of that robustness. However, if you're a solo filmmaker or you're on a small crew and you want to be able to change things quickly, this can eat up into a lot of time. We've used it on our recent short film Singer, and this was the only cage that we used throughout the whole process. And you almost need a dedicated person to be able to switch and manage all of these little gizmos and gadgets, because it's now very quick for me to be able to switch between. So if you've got that setup going, it actually works quite well. So switch it in, switch it out. But that's still three kind of items and things to track on. And if I wanted to change the lenses, I would have to do that as well too. But it doesn't just extend to the lenses itself. But for example, if I wanted to attach, for example, a quick release handle, well, Beastgrip don't have a option like that. So yeah, so in order to attach a handle, I would need to get this RT mount, they call it, grab an Allen key. So obviously that took a whole lot longer compared to what you saw before with the other two cages. Now, again, this cage is, I would say, a more professionally built graded cage, and it comes with a lot more of that added robustness. But in terms of speed, you do definitely lose out here. Now, one thing that I did have a bit of an issue with when it came to the Beastgrip cage is on the cage itself, it only had one cold shoe mount. I honestly don't know how we managed to make it work, but the cable just reached far enough in order for us to kind of plug it in. But if I wanted to use it the other way, which is doing it this way instead, and have the adapter and the mount on top, this is putting like a bit of strain on the cable here. So that's one thing I kind of wasn't a huge fan of, is just like how much strain this is, because the cold shoe mount is just a little bit too far. But now I'm out of cold shoe mounts and I can't add anything else. So again, this is a very professional kind of cage rig, and I'm looking forward to using it a little bit more. But ultimately, it's just one thing to keep in mind, is that speed and kind of flexibility compared to the prosumer cages. It's just one thing to keep in mind with this one. The Beastgrip cage is a solid option. However, you do need that extra support and extra rigging in order to get it to work. And if you're a single run and gun filmmaker and you don't want to deal with setting up things over and over again, you want to quickly go between setups, either get other accessories that can support that, or really the Beastgrip is probably not the best option out of the other ones that we've shared today. So the Beastgrip is $149 US, which is the same price as the Freewell one. I have been saying that this is the most expensive cage option, and the reason I do say that is that it is $149, which is the same price as the Freewell Genius cage kit. However, the only difference is that you don't really get that much with it. No handles, no buttons, no adapters, nothing like that. just the cage alongside a few adapters to attach a different few modules to. And well, that is pretty much it. That was a pretty big breakdown. Hopefully you know everything you need to know about these iPhone cages now. If you have any questions at all, feel free to let me know down in the comment section below. Have a wonderful day, stay safe, and of course, do take care.